Manectric, Tapu Fini, Incineroar, Cresselia, and Snorlax.
Yeah, but you've got to look over at Simone's team and pose the question to Brian is, can you stop the Komodo from doing what it needs to do? Can it set up with the Commonium Z? And if you don't have an answer to that, these games could be pretty prompt. I think Brian has probably prepared for this team. It definitely had a flurry of success earlier in the year with a lot of North American players bringing it to regionals, and I don't think it was much winning of the event with it, but there was certainly performances that made you stand up and take note, a little similar to Chatot's head, of course. You know, you really have to be careful and come into the World Championships with enough preparation to make sure you don't get caught short by somebody just absolutely running through you with a very simple but very effective and well-executed strategy.
And here we are now coming into the first teams. Players have selected their leads. A lot of players will say that picking your leads in a match can give you such a strong advantage. Como and Gengar are the leads that Simone decides to go with, as Manectric and Cresselia are the leads that Brian decides to go with. Both these players are 2-0, trying to get as many victories as possible to secure their spot in the top cut. And here we go, jumping into the first turn.
Well, you talk about picking your leads carefully. Honestly, against Simone's team, you have to be even more cautious with the way you pick your leads. When Gengar Mega Evolves, you're not able to start switching around, so you're given very limited opportunities to get your board in the adequate position that you want to deal with what Simone has brought to this start of the game. Yes, you can switch right now, but after that, Gengar is going to be Mega Evolving. Unless you have a way of switching in the middle of the turn, a Volt Switch, a U-turn, then you're going to be stuck in. Manectric could be in a good position. Commonly knowing Volt Switch may have the option to get out if it doesn't like what it sees. Cresselia, though, doesn't like facing down against this Gengar and may be forced to switch around.
Como is going to switch out. Incineroar is going to take the healer, going to use its Intimidate ability. Not going to matter against the Cresselia or the Manectric, both known to be special attackers. One thing to know about Brian's team and team preview is the fact that there's only one fairy type on that team, that Tapu Fini, which means that Como could easily get off a Clangorous Soul Blaze without having to worry about a double fairy switch in. Manectric is going to Mega Evolve here. It is going to get that Intimidate ability, going to be big against this Incineroar, and Gengar is also going to follow suit. So now the Gengar is going to lock in this Cresselia and this Manectric. Manectric does have that option to go for a Volt Switch, though. Really nice on Manectric to be able to get those Intimidates in and out, as Manectric actually uses Snarl this turn, trying to weaken the amount of damage that Gengar can do over there, trying to protect that Cresselia just a bit. Not very effective damage on that Incineroar, and the special attack drop's not going to matter at all. And it looks like we're going to see a Z move. It is going to be a Shattered Psyche from the Cresselia here. Gengar not going to be able to fully protect itself. Going to take some damage.
Yeah, but it does go towards that Incineroar slot. What he's trying to do there is get rid of what was the Komo-O, and Incineroar's right there. So yeah, it looks like it would be the easy pickup on Gengar, but you probably don't need to use your Psychium Z, and giving up that information and that use of a Shattered Psyche already is a huge loss for Brian.
Yep, and Cresselia gets hit with a Fake Out, gonna make sure it can't move this turn. Snarl, super effective damage on that Gengar, but most importantly, getting a big special attack drop, allowing that Cresselia probably to be able to survive a Shadow Ball, but it looks like it's gonna be Perish Trapping going on here. Gengar gonna go for the Perish Song. All Pokemon hearing this song will faint in 3 turns. So, kind of putting a timer on the Pokemon over on Brian's side, but of course Manectric does have access to that Volt Switch.
Well, the way this game is shaking out is exactly what Simone wants to happen. He brings his Komo-O in the lead alongside the Gengar, and then he forces Brian to show him and give up the Pokemon he would use to defeat that Komo-O. He traps them in with Gengar, he switches it out for the Incineroar, and now he has that Incineroar to buy a turn with Fake Out. The Gengar can then start weaving and protects after the Perish Song, and the 2 big threats to the Komo-O are now on a very, very short timer.
Yeah, and one of the great things about Incineroar and Gengar is that, you can switch out that Gengar U-turn with the Incineroar and be able to keep that lock going, as it's a double protect over on Simone's side, just trying to stall this Perish Song. So, in good position right here. Manectric can Volt Switch out, try to preserve itself for later on, but, tough spot right here to try to break that Perish Song.
I think he's going to be able to get the Volt Switch off. I mean, there's no real way that could be prevented. So getting that off would be nice, because I think the snarl is very important to Brian in the way he wants to shut down this Como-O. I know it's a slow and steady way to do it, but it's certainly one of his efforts. We are going to see the final Pokemon, though, for Simone, and it's actually one of my favorites. Doesn't get much screen time, but could be putting in a big shift here.
Tapu Bulu switches in for that Mega Gengar. Manectric is going to go for the Volt Switch here. It hits into that Incineroar, does some decent damage, but again, this allows Brian to preserve that Manectric for later on, but, you know, Simone can continue with this lock here just by U-turning with that Incineroar. Lurantis is going to take the field, does have the contrary ability, so it does get an attack boost every time it gets intimidated, as Incineroar does target down Cresselia with a U-turn. Most likely just going to come right back in with the Gengar, but, you know, Brian could possibly get a hit with the Psychic if Brian called it correctly. Yeah,
it's going to be a big play to see if he's gone for it. If he's called it right, though, he's going to swing this one very favorably. And an interesting trick room there from Cresselia. The one thing I think is super interesting right now is that this Lurantis is in the grassy terrain set up for him by Simone's Tapu Bulu.
Yeah, definitely. You know, Brian is trying to set up this Lurantis, maybe trying to allow it to sweep. Lurantis is not known as a speed Pokemon, so it wants to function in the Trick Room, try and pick up as many boosts as it can, but Tapu Bulu is going to switch out here. Incineroar is going to come in, you know, like I've already mentioned, that contrary ability is going to go and activate and give it an attack boost instead. Yeah,
I mean, we're just going to see that right away. Lurantis' attack rising, and no real effect on Cresselia.
Oh, Lurantis actually uses his turn to set up a substitute, trying to hide behind it right now, as Cresselia goes for a Psychic. Gonna hit super effective damage into that Mega Gengar, does good damage. Gengar barely hangs on, gets a special defense drop, but at that amount of hit points, it's not gonna matter at all. Gengar now using Sludge Bomb, hits in that Lurantis slot. It is going to be able to fade that substitute, and after this turn, you know, Cresselia heard that Perish Song 3 turns ago, and it's going to fade because of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's time's up, really, for Cresselia at this one, but getting that Psychic in was pretty big, I think. I think that damage is going to certainly add up in the long run, and to see such a bulky Pokemon, a staple of your team, taken out because it heard something it didn't like, really tough for Brian. I mean, he does still have a number of great options.
Yeah, Cresselia, so far what we've seen on stream, hasn't really been able to do much, despite the fact that we continue to call it one of the greatest Pokemon in VGC history. And don't get me wrong, it absolutely is, but, you know, a lot of players are preparing for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this year more than ever, Cresselia has been easier to beat. There's just more and more options now that can really handle it with aplomb. So, yes, it does still have a role on a number of teams. It's still one of the premium Trick Room, as it still has access to Icy Wind, Ice Beams, Ally Switches, a whole plethora of moves. But, you know, when you see things like Incineroar with knockoff, Gengar being Gengar, and it's just a little bit harder to sometimes justify it and rely on it in the same way.
Yep, and of course that Trick Room coming into coming in handy right now, because, you know, now a Perish Song might not be able to be set up by Gengar if Brian played that right. A Superpower does connect with that Incineroar, gets the KO there, and boosts its attack and defenses, but Gengar could be able to get up a Perish Song right now as Tapu Fini flinches, but instead Gengar just tries to get as much damage out on the field as possible, goes for a Sludge Bomb on that Lurantis and gets the KO.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Lurantis going down is going to be a huge problem right now for Brian. I think he needs a little bit more, and yes, being able to Superpower and get the boosts was really, really big on Simone's Incineroar. But at that same time, you know, you knew the Incineroar was going to be buying some time itself and just fake outing somewhere. So I think if you let the fake out happen, you acknowledge that that's the play, and then just double up on that Gengar, you know you're guaranteed to knock it out at that point. So just seems like a pretty brash play from Brian to just want the boosts instead of the knockout on the threat there. But I think overall, you know, this Manectric is going to be able to really slow things down as long as he can consistently hit snarls.
Yeah, and, you know, Como-O does protect, does not want to get KO'd by a Tapu Fini fairy-type attack at all. Gengar also following suit, going to use a protect, try to stall out this Trick Room right now, as Tapu Fini does use Moonblast in that protect. Manectric's just going to hit into protect as well. You know, 2 Pokemon left over on Brian's side versus the 3 on Simone's side. Of course, Tapu Bulu is going to be a difficult Pokemon to deal with here. Tapu Fini absolutely does not enjoy facing off against, and Manectric can maybe go for an overheat, but you can't successively continue to hit those overheats.
Yeah, you need it to be weakened up a little bit before you can comfortably get the knockout with overheat. If you fall short, the Tapu Bulu, of course, will have grassy terrain when it comes in. So if you fall short, then Simone's just going to be able to buy some time, slow the game down, let that grassy terrain recovery take effect, and that recovery brings your health up. The special attack's going down with a potential overheat. You just end up in a really rough position.
Ooh, Como tries to go for the double tech. Does not get it at all. Tapu Fini instead actually goes for a Muddy Water here. Not really trying to hit into that Como with a Moonblast. Gets the KO on that Mega Gengar. And Manectric now is going to be able to move. Goes for an overheat. Expecting a switch, I believe, into that Como slot. Unfortunately, that's not very effective and drops that special attack stat by 2 stages as the Twisted Dimensions return to normal.
That could really just ruin the game right there for Brian. Giving up that overheat, trying to call that Tapu Bulu on the switch in, really not what you want to see. I mean, the biggest problem there is he's in such a tough position to deal with the Tapu Bulu right now. The Manectric's damage is so weak at this point. Those drops are just not going to be enough. And if you overheat again, it gets even worse. I think a knockout, I don't want to say calling another failed double protect was an easy play to make, but if you'd have taken out the Como and it would have been weakened Gengar and Tapu Bulu, I think that's a more premium combination to be playing against. But it's a very smart play there from Simone just to say, well, as long as I can get through the Trick Room, Tapu Bulu can get in at some point, and Tapu Bulu is going to be able to pretty much tidy up.
Goes for a Wood Hammer into that Manectric slot, gets the one-hit KO, also revealing to Brian that Tapu Bulu is carrying a Choice Scarf right there, and that should do it. The Commonium Z activates here, going to go for a Clanger Soul Blaze into that lone Tapu Fini slot. Not going to go ahead and give it the boost, though.
Yeah, it's not really going to be what you want to see for the Clanger Soul Blaze, but honestly, it wasn't even a big part of this game. The Como has just kind of sat there, just kind of taken its time, been a nuisance and been a threat in the back of Brian's mind. But now we see the Tapu Bulu with the Choice Scarf. That makes that turn where Simone just hits double protect and fails them both even more valuable. Yes, it looked like a turn that he got absolutely nothing out of, but it does mean that Trick Room expires and the Tapu Bulu comes in safely when the Trick Room has ended.
Yeah, so Simone keeping that Tapu Bulu for the back was an absolutely brilliant play right there. Preserving it, realizing that later on it's going to come in handy. I can use it to beat that Manectric, and also Tapu Fini does not enjoy facing off against Tapu Bulu at all. So Simone really kept control of the board. There were definitely moments where I thought Brian had some pretty decent board position, but that Tapu Bulu was a problematic Pokemon, and Brian's definitely going to have to adjust to it.
Well, Brian was so scared of it as well, and he tried a very cheeky play where he tries to call it on the way in. He's already shown that he's ready to Moonblast the Como, so he thinks the Tapu Bulu is going to come in and take it. And then in that turn, he kind of goes all in. He says, well, so, okay, if I can catch your Tapu Bulu on the way in, then I can win this game while Trick Room is up. Simone doesn't fall for it. He doesn't get greedy. He just plays really safe and then just powers on through. Tapu Bulu comes in when Trick Room's expired, and honestly, that information is going to be a huge problem for Brian, because the fastest things on his team don't appreciate Tapu Bulu at all. The Manectric fell to a single Wood Hammer. Tapu Fini's not going to like it. And the rest of his team, outside of Incineroar, kind of struggled to deal with it.
Yep, I definitely think that Incineroar might be a Pokemon that Brian adjusts to bringing this game to help deal with that Tapu Bulu. Also has a fairly decent matchup against that Gengar, can knock it off even though it's not the boosted knockoff.
Yep.
But most importantly, that Flare Blitz is going to be big against the Tapu Bulu.
And I think Incineroar with his Cresselia for Trick Room would be a very solid play. We didn't see the Tapu Fini come out from Simone last game, so you could probably be a little more relaxed about not seeing it. That would be the biggest problem for the Incineroar in this one, but the 4 that Simone did bring in game 1 would not appreciate an adjustment to Incineroar from Brian, assuming he sticks with the same.
Here we go now, jumping into game 2 between these two top players in the world. The Gengar Pair Song also probably threw Brian for a bit of a loop. That's an interesting tech move on these Como teams, but it exerts so much pressure. Looks like both players aren't really going to make any changes to their leads at all. Cresselia and Manectric are the leads that Brian decides to go with, while Simone believes in the Gengar and that Como.
I mean, I don't think it's a bad lead for Brian at all. He was able to make some interesting plays. You know, he just needs to be a little more cautious about where he fires that Shattered Psyche. But if he can get it right this time, he could put himself in a much bigger advantage. You know, if he can hit the Gengar hard before it's able to perish Song, then he'd be in a solid position. But he just has to watch out for that potential Incineroar switch again. You know, but then on the flip side of that, Simone's in a really good position to kind of scare Brian. You know, Brian saw it last turn or last game that he does bring the Incineroar in when he knows about the Shattered Psyche. It doesn't look like we're going to have any switches though, so maybe Brian's been able to capitalize.
Manectric Mega Evolving now. That Intimidate is going to land into that Como-O. It depends on how this Como-O is trained. Could be physical or special attacking here. You know, so that's going to be
the infamous mixed Como-O. Yeah. A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
I mean, I've seen it before, right?
I have. It's pretty terrifying.
Gengar Mega Evolves as well, so Brian's going to be locked with that Cresselia and that Manectric. Barring a Volt Switch, it is going to be a Volt Switch in that Mega Gengar slot, doing decent damage right there, about 30%, as now Brian gets to choose what he thinks can come in easily.
I think at this point, he's kind of got to bring in his Tapu Fini if he's bought it. Yeah, it just makes sense, you know. It's not going to appreciate the Sludge Bomb from Gengar, but if he's comfortable that he can knock that out with the Cresselia this turn, and he's willing to just accept the Como-O attacking, then this could be a very solid play.
Gengar uses Shadow Ball, hits that Cresselia, does 50%, and Como-O is going to move first. Wait, yep, Como-O is going to move first. Going to be able to get that Clanger Soul Blaze, and you know that's going to be big because Como-O...
The trainer gives it away. Brian's trainer is dressed like Lurantis. Fun fact. The Tapu Fini switch, though, pretty solid here. It all depends if the Cresselia can hold on through this Clanger Soul Blaze.
Yep, and one advantage of getting this Clanger Soul Blaze off before that Cresselia is that Como-O does get that special defense boost, which might put it out of range of getting KO'd by a Shattered Psyche from the Cresselia.
Well, it depends if the Shattered Psyche's gone that way. I mean, I think it'd be more important, arguably, for the Gengar.
I don't even think you need a Shattered Psyche. I honestly think a Psychic is just good enough.
Cresselia, though, takes it so well.
Hangs on with a quarter of its hit points remaining as Como-O gets those boosts from that Clanger Soul Blaze. Cresselia actually uses turn to set up Trick Room, so not bad position right now for Brian to be able to set up that Trick Room.
I love that play.
Yeah.
I think this is fantastic. The switch in with the Volt Switch is great. And actually, both the Pokemon over on Brian's side are going to be able to deal good damage. Yes, you know, the boost to special defense has come through, but at least you've got your Tapu Fini in, which is going to be hitting, you know, with the same type of attack bonus on a 4x weakness. And if you can get that Como-O knocked out, you've wasted a whole lot of time. If he's doubled into it this turn, he may even be able to overcome the boost from the Clefairy.
Como-O protects itself, not wanting to get hit with a Moonblast just yet. And it looks like it is going to be the Shattered Psyche from that Cresselia. Gonna be doing some damage here. Clefairy does have that Friend Guard, which might come into play with that Moonblast from Tapu Fini into that Como-O slot.
The Clefairy also has so many options to keep this Como-O safe, so I think this switch-in's been really good. But on the way in, it's been caught by a Shattered Psyche, and it's not going to appreciate that at all.
Does about 50% damage right there as Tapu Fini actually using the turn to set up a Calm Mind. Oh, wow. Brian really realizing, you know, this Como-O is probably going to protect itself, and this is pretty much a free Calm Mind right now for Brian's Tapu Fini.
Yeah, if you've got the opportunity to do it, you're going to need it, especially to overcome this Friend Guard. I mean, yes, Clefairy didn't get knocked out by the Shattered Psyche, and it was able to keep itself pretty safe there, and it is going to be able to fire turn for this Como-O, but it's still in a position where, you know, both the Pokemon on Brian's side of the field are attacking in advance. It's really nice to see that option for him.
And you have that Follow Me option from Clefairy as well. So Clefairy will be able to draw away single type target attacks. You know, Cresselia moving first, the Psychic won't be able to hit into that. All right, Clefairy actually just going to go for a Protect here, not going for... Oh, come on with a double Protect. As Cresselia goes for a Psychic, it is going to hit in that Como-O slot right there. Super effective damage, does 40% with that special defense boost from Como-O. And the Moonblast lands in that Como-O, so Clefairy protected itself for a not as Como-O gets KO'd.
Yeah, no, I actually really like that play from Brian. You know, actually target down the Como-O, except that, hey, if Clefairy follow me's, they are going to go that way. But in the option that he doesn't, he tries something else, just go for it on this Como-O, and getting that knockout is huge. I think that's one of the biggest threats right there, already removed, and this Tapu Bulu is forced in a position where it's in Trick Room, and it's a Choice Scarf user, so, you know, pretty much free to either knock out the Clefairy if it's forced to follow me to keep Tapu Bulu safe, or just get some damage down on it right now.
Yeah, and this actually, you know, allows Clefairy to be able to go for follow me's this turn to draw away attacks from that Tapu Bulu, keeping it very healthy. I mean, Cresselia is already heavily damaged. Tapu Fini is going to be one-hit KO by Tapu Bulu with the Wood Hammer, maybe even the Horn Leech.
Oh, it's not what you want to see, is it? You don't want to be knocked out by that. Clefairy does have to keep its partners safe, though, and it's going to, I mean, essentially pay for that in the long run.
Here comes the ally switch from that Cresselia. So if Tapu Fini can't get the KO, Tapu Fini goes for the Moonblast, hits into that Clefairy slot. This is going to do big damage thanks to that Calm Mind. Does not get the KO. Special attack drop's not going to matter at all. Tapu Bulu uses Wood Hammer here. It lands in the Tapu Fini slot. Where that Cresselia was, gets the big KO.
Yeah, and I honestly think that's a very risky ally switch there from Brian because, you know, the Tapu Fini's in no position to be taking on that Tapu Bulu at all. It's just not in a good position to do that. So it makes a lot more sense for him right now to start going after that Cresselia. So for him to ally switch there and put the Tapu Fini where the Cresselia is just seems a little bit ambitious to me. And for that, he has paid in losing his Tapu Fini very, very easily. It got a big Moonblast off, but now this Manectric is limited, weirdly enough, by the use of Trick Room to deal with this Tapu Bulu.
Yeah, Cresselia will be able to move first. Cresselia will be able to go for the Psychic in that Clefairy, and then Manectric will be able to follow up with a Overheat into that Tapu Bulu, which is nice. Thanks to that Trick Room from earlier. This is the last turn of Trick Room here.
Yeah, it's going to be big to see what will happen.
Ooh, Spotlight.
Yeah, Spotlight from the Clefairy, making sure Tapu Bulu is the center of attention.
So the Psychic lands into that Tapu Bulu, does big damage. Manectric uses Overheat here. It is going to get the KO on that Tapu Bulu. So really, that Spotlight was a way for Clefairy to draw attention away from itself.
Yeah, Clefairy being a little bit naughty there. Says, I looked after you for a turn, no, you look after me. I love the way that Clefairy points at whichever one is getting bruised in that instance. But, you know, it makes sense. At the end of Trick Room, probably time to try and get that Gengar in. The big thing here, though, is this Cresselia is still sticking around. And yes, you have to give up a turn to do it, but we already know that the Manectric carries Snarl. There is the option for the Manectric to switch out as well.
Yep.
If we can get the Volt switch off right now, that would be really good to reset the special attack drop from Overheat, come back in later in the game, and just Snarl this Gengar. Because that's the only threat right now on the field. Snarl will be completely ignoring the Follow Me, and that's pretty much what you need.
Clefairy protecting itself here, trying to stay on the field as long as possible to keep that Friend Guard up. Manectric does switch out here with that Volt switch. Going to reveal Brian's last Pokemon in the back here. Cresselia on its last leg of hit points. Lurantis is going to take the field, but we saw that it got KO'd pretty quickly by that Gengar, by a Sludge Bomb. So here comes Gengar Sludge Bomb, lands in that Cresselia slot, gets the KO.
Yeah, and that's going to be an easy knockout. We are going to be down to our last two, but like I said, the Manectric has left the field. It has reset its drop, and there's only so long that you can keep going like this. I think Manectric has to come in and get those Snarls down. Lurantis has to keep itself safe for a little bit. And if you're wasting time with the Sludge Bombs over there, then Brian's going to be able to carve out a significant advantage with these Snarls.
And you have to be able to KO this Clefairy. You know, Gengar's access to spread moves is really Icy Wind, not really doing that much damage to Lurantis or the Manectric. Actually, no, it will be super effective damage to Lurantis, but yeah. Here comes the helping hand as Manectric uses Snarl. So Snarl, again, going to be very key to weaken the amount of damage that Gengar can do. It might take two more in order to get the KO.
I like as well that he's not protected either of his Pokemon, so whichever Gengar doesn't knock out,
into the Lurantis gets the hit.
In a solid position.
Lurantis holds on, actually, but Poison will...
we'll get it at the end of the turn.
No,
nope.
There's
Apparently
a berry.
not.
Alrighty then.
Apparently not.
So Lurantis heals back with that Guava Berry. Lurantis goes for the Leaf Blade here, hits the Clefairy side, gets the KO, and it looks like Brian is so much closer now to being able to force Game 3. Snarl single target now, Friend Guard's off the field. Brian did it. He's forcing Game 3, actually.
Yeah, I think he's played this game absolutely perfectly. I mean, it didn't really matter what was the last Pokemon in the back. It's a good calculation to know, though, that he can actually take the Sludge Bomb. Of course, there was Helping Hand
Sludge Bomb
but
at that.
There was the Snarl before.
There was,
so
yeah.
He kind of knows where he needs to get this Gengar to, and this Manectric being absolutely key. We just see how much better he played it in this game, to the point that, you know, he was able to kind of win this one out. And now Gengar can't knock both of Brian's Pokemon out.
Yeah, so the Sludge Bomb lands in that Lurantis, gets the KO there from that range, but Gengar is going to just, you know, hang on with a sliver of hit points, and Manectric has, you know, it's one of the fastest Pokemon in the format, going to be able to just easily pick up the KO here.
Yeah, this Manectric's been really, really well played by Brian, and a much better execution. You know, he was able to, weirdly enough, play Manectric successfully in Trick Room, because that's what he needed for it to be an even faster threat to its team. We saw as well, even in that game, he managed to get Clangorous Soul Blaze set up, Simone's side of the field did, but it just wasn't a big concern. So it's interesting that the game he won was the game he didn't Clangorous Soul Blaze properly in, and the game he lost was the one he did. So maybe has to mix it up a little bit. I think Brian, the way he played out that game, the same 4, was really, really smart.
Yep, both players currently sitting at 2-0. 5 is the magic number to secure your spot in the top cut. You know, moving on to 3-0, that it lifts a pretty big weight off of your shoulders for the remainder of the tournament. Whereas if you drop to 2-1, you know, yeah, you kind of start feeling that pressure building on. So pretty key matchup right here between these two players in this round. Again, you know, going into team preview, Brian adjusted perfectly. Simone, you know, kind of led off with that Parasong. I think Parasong was a really good move to have in order to exert pressure. But again, a key change that Simone did was actually bringing that Clefairy instead of that Incineroar.
Yeah, I think bringing the Clefairy instead of the Incineroar completely changed how his team comes together. Because when he has the Incineroar, he has so many options to switch it in while the Perish Trap, the latter half, is in play, and buy turns with that fake out, guaranteed turns. The Clefairy does a similar job in the way that it buys turns in keeping your partner safe, but it's still something you have to kind of worry about and switch out, and it's a little bit harder to switch than the Incineroar with the U-turn. So I think if I'm Simone, you have to be considering the Incineroar might be the way to go. Clefairy was good, but was it good enough?
Yeah, and Brian didn't even bring the Incineroar, and here we are, just not, you know, we said that was a, you know, an advantageous adjustment, but Brian doesn't need it. He's just playing. He's rolling. He has been one of the most successful players in the later half of the season, as you mentioned earlier, and here we now are jumping into Game 3 between these two players. Manectric and Cresselia are the leads that Brian decides to go with. Solid lead so far, really paid off in Game 2, not so much Game 1, as Gengar and Clefairy are the leads that Simone decides to go with here. So Clefairy going to provide that Friend Guard and Follow Me support. Yeah,
I think he's going to try and get a lot of value out of this Gengar right now. Basically making sure the Gengar's in a position to try and knock things with the Perish Song. I don't honestly think the Gengar is going to be going too crazy with its attacks right now. Shadow Ball is going to do a lot to this Cresselia, and he may be able to add more with the Helping Hand from Clefairy. But you've got to remember, for all those times you try and attack, Manectric's in the fine position to just snarl you right now and just lower that attack already. So could be interesting to see how much value this Manectric provides in this game.
Clefairy switches out. Como-O is going to take the field as Manectric Mega Evolves here. Going to use that Intimidate ability on to the Como-O, weakening its attack stat. But again, you know, that Snarl came in handy so much in the previous games. You know, just mitigating the amount of damage that this Mega Gengar can do, as Gengar is going to Mega Evolve and trap.
This could be a huge turn for Brian, actually. If he's just gone for it, if he's turned on the gas, he's in a pretty interesting position, particularly if he went after this Clefairy. This Como switching could be punished real hard.
Gengar protects itself from the Snarl. What is Cresselia going to do here? Como is actually soundproof, so it doesn't take damage at all. And Cresselia is going to go for a Shattered Psyche, but is it going to target down what's that Clefairy or that Mega Gengar slot here?
I mean, either way, he's dealing some damage, and that's better than Game 1, where he didn't deal any damage with it. But, you know, the soundproof keeping the Como safe is so big, because one of the best answers to lowering its special attack with the Snarl isn't available right now. It does attack this Mega Gengar, though, with a Shattered Psyche, and even through Protect, it's pretty significant damage.
I mean, some damage is better than no damage at all, right? Gengar not able to fully protect itself, taking about 30% damage right there. As Manectric can go for a Snarl that could be, you know, good damage out on the field. Psychic will also help threaten that Como as well. So here's the Volt Switch into that Gengar slot, bringing it down to about 35% of his hit points remaining, allowing Brian to kind of adjust, possibly a good time to set up a Trick Room here with Snorlax coming onto the field.
Well, he knows as well from the previous game, he can take the attacks.
Yep, Shadow Ball.
With his Cresselia.
Shadow Ball from Gengar, hitting that Cresselia, getting a special defense drop. That actually might be big right here as the Clanger Soul Blaze connects.
Yeah, with that special defense drop, I don't think he can take the Clanger Soul Blaze. We saw before, I think it did a little more damage than Game 2 as well. Game 2 was just past the halfway mark, and that was a slight chunk more. But that special defense drop, honestly, means I don't think this Clanger Soul Blaze is going to fall short. I think he's going to make it, and this Cresselia is going to be gone. There'll be no Trick Room, and this Snorlax selection could be completely useless almost immediately.
And here we go, the Clanger Soul Blaze connects. Como is also going to get a boost. A Trick Room would have been so big right here as it connects with Cresselia. Does it hang on? It does not. Big, big KO right there from Simone Sanvito.
Yeah, I think that's honestly so many things going on in that turn. You know, Cresselia gets the special defense drop. That's game, and then the Clanger Soul Blaze knocks it out. That's set. Simone's in a very solid position now to try and push on towards match in this instance.
Manectric is going to take the field here. It is going to intimidate again, but it's probably not going to matter too much. You know, Snorlax is a bulky Pokemon. Might be able to hang on for just a little bit, but is it going to be able to set up to try to deal with this Como? That's kind of dangerous.
Yeah, you've got to wonder, how much can Snorlax take from a boosted Como? And on top of that, if Gengar doesn't like it, just Perish Song it. You know, sing it a nasty little
Well, Manectric's going to go first, so Manectric can get the KO on the Gengar at this point.
Yeah, but the problem is you then just leave the Como to, you know, hit both your Pokemon. A Clanging Scales after the boost is going to do so much damage. And if you leave the Como alone, it's just going to be able to set up on you. Let's just see how much it does.
Just outspeeds, goes for a Clanging Scales, hits both Pokemon. Manectric hangs on. Snorlax is going to be able to eat its berry and heal right back up thanks to that Gluttony ability. You know, it did drop the defense on Como, which could be pretty big as Manectric uses Volt Switch here. It is going to hit in that Gengar slot, gets the KO, releases that lock, a critical hit, just gravy on top.
Yeah, it didn't really need it, but, you know, that's the things that Brian's going to need to get back into this. This Snorlax, though, you know, most Snorlax only become a crazy big problem when they've got a belly drum boost or they've set up a ton of curses. Right now, that's going to be nigh on impossible for Brian to do safely, especially in the face of this Como. He is going to try and belly drum. He's already activated his own berry, though, and we saw what happened last time. If Simone has something he can bring in to deal with this Tapu Fini,
that Tapu Bulu sounds pretty nice right now.
Could get real nasty.
Yep, Tapu Bulu takes the field, gonna change that terrain into that grassy terrain that it just enjoys so much. You know, it boosts all of its grass type attacks, heals back its partners, well, heals back everything on the field, but you know, it looks like Simone is in control right now, just has such good board position. I mean, Como might even be able to get the KO on the Snorlax here with the Clanging Scales.
I think it will. I mean, it's pretty much in the range, and assuming that the Tapu Bulu knocks out the Tapu Fini with the Wood Hammer, it'll then be single target. It's not going to happen on this turn, though.
Tapu Fini protects itself. Como using its turn to go for a substitute, just trying to hide behind it here as Tapu Bulu goes for a Wood Hammer. Actually hits it in that Snorlax slot. Big damage, gets the KO.
Got him.
Wow, got him.
Absolutely got him.
Got him.
Knew that the Tapu Fini Protect was coming in, so just said, you know what? You can do that. I'm going to use my grassy terrain and my Wood Hammer to knock your Snorlax out. While I'm in there, I'm just going to actually set up a little substitute on this Como. So even if you Moonblast, it's going to take 2 of those. And this has been absolutely clinical from Simone. His execution of this game. I mean, yes, you could look back at turn 1 and say, well, he got a little lucky with the Shadow Ball, but you've got to buy a ticket to win the raffle, and that's come off perfectly for him.
Yeah, and it looks like Brian Youm is going to concede here. You know, he just knows that this Tapu Bulu is just too much of an issue as the match is finally forfeited by Brian Youm. Well played set from both players. Simone coming out on top in game